All right, welcome back to 411 on wrestling. Been a while here, but we are catching up with our friend Andrew Thompson from Post Wrestling, and you can see his nice little, fantastic little avatar there. Which Andrew and I having this conversation before we started. The fact that I have even gotten to this point, Andrew, for me to be able to pull off doing video by itself is a minor miracle in and of itself. But you know how to do all this because you're doing it all on Andrew Thompson interviews on YouTube, and of course all the stuff you do for Post Wrestling. And I know it's been a while since we talked. We've laughed about this, but this is our yearly chat, basically. And so, how's everything going your way?
It's good to be back on for like we said, our yearly conversation, man. It seems like I think that's a little bit like exaggeration that you do just to mess around. We probably get together probably like I say once every 6 or 7 months, or probably something along those
Yeah.
lines. But yeah, it's always good to talk to you, man, and I always enjoy the conversations that we have about pro wrestling.
It's like a dental checkup, is what we are at this point. Like we're we're basically like come back in 6 months. Like that's kind of what we do now. But now that we have figured out all this modern equipment and everything, we'll definitely have you on a lot more often and all that. But we are catching up here right after Money in the Bank, and that's why I wanted to talk to you because obviously a lot coming out of it. And we're recording this just for reference on Monday afternoon. So Raw will take place in a couple hours. So certainly there will be, we'll know the exact direction maybe for some of this stuff. But for now, Andrew, what'd you think? Money in the Bank. I thought it was, overall solid show. That there was some good. I thought there was some not so good, and we may get to some of both of those probably in a second. But overall, I thought it was a decent show. But I think the bigger two things probably coming out of it are going to be Liv Morgan in theory, and I think the reaction has been a little bit different for both.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I throw Money in the Bank. I'd say top to bottom was a solid show. Much like you said, the ending wasn't necessarily my taste. I would have definitely preferred another winner of the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. But I cannot sit here and say I am shocked in any which way that was the case, because I think we've all seen since the day that one Theory made his way onto the main roster that has been somebody who has clearly caught the attention of one man and one man only, and that being Vince McMahon, and he clearly loves Theory. Me personally, I don't really see it, but hey, it's not my choice. But for Liv Morgan, I think that was one of those things where I think it even showed just by the way her colleagues reacted to the way she got the money when she got the Money in the Bank win, and then on top of that, winning the championship. Like clearly she's beloved, but by the people who she works with. So that was like a real cool thing. Now the thing is, the reason why it's so difficult to get like super invested into these type of things is that while I am happy for Liv Morgan, now there comes the part where WWE actually has to book her as a champion. So now, and then at the top of that lives a baby face. So it's kind of being one of those things where it's kind of like you just wonder how this is going to turn out. And then of course we got SummerSlam in what, 3 weeks,
yeah,
the 31st in Nashville. So we have that on top of that, and then I'm just thinking about like how Big E's run sort of panned out. Like I was over the moon and for Big E, like when he got his WWE Championship win, man, I was like, this is what I've been waiting for. Big E finally got his big moment, and then his run, losses on TV, and this dude was like in all these tag team matches, and I'm like, oh, and he lost to Roman in Survivor Series and all this stuff, and it just did not. And then of course the way he lost the title, it did just not turn out the way that I was expecting, especially off the high that of him winning that championship. And I also think that's a credit to Big E, a discredit to them not knowing how to necessarily book like just a traditional good baby face, and like I feel like Liv Morgan might face sort of the same troubles. I think it's gonna be interesting to see how her title run pans out. But yeah, big moment for Liv Morgan. But I think the match of the night was probably the Street Profits versus the Usos. That was a
yeah,
banger. That was a banger match.
yeah. That was I agree. That was to me as easily the best match of the night. I think you could have again. I think you could have made the case for the main event, but I think the way it ended, I don't think you could. I thought it was a good match, but I just think the
Yeah,
ending kind of it rubbed some people the wrong way. And like I said, I don't think there was any doubt the tag team match was the best part of that. And going back to Liv Morgan, because like you mentioned, I think that was the biggest thing coming out of it. And now it's really about what's next. And I think that's, as you said, I think that's where things can get a little tricky sometimes. And I just wonder if I mean, look, there's a couple different directions they can go here, right? And let me say this up front. Like, I thought the execution of it was great. Like, I thought the way
Mhm.
they executed it, she wins. You kind of have the promo backstage where it's sort of like, I don't know when. I'm just going to celebrate all this other stuff. And then I'll tell you what I liked, Andrew, was after the Bianca Belair Carmella match, they do the attack there, and you're thinking, all right, well, maybe this is
Mhm.
it, right? Like, Liv's Raw. Like, and I'm thinking, oh, please don't do this because I was like, this is not going
Right.
to work. This is going to be bad. But you kind of get that tease, but then it's like, all right, well, she's not going to do it. That was the perfect opportunity. She's not going to do it, right? So you kind of let your guard down a little bit. But then, the way you do it after that, I thought was perfect to do it with the next match. And I said I thought it would make sense, and I tweeted out right after I guess she won. I'm like, well, I guess she could cash in on Rousey, but I think in that scenario, what I would like to see is if you do it the exact same way they did it. And maybe I went back and forth on this. Okay, you could either do it exactly how they did it, or do you just have Ronda just completely lose it on her after
Mm.
they do the hug, the handshake, but then I think you're like, all right, well, you take away that moment for her for Liv Morgan, and I get why they didn't want to do that because there really wasn't a lot of other stuff on the show coming out of it. You could have said that's your big moment, right? Like that was it. And so I get why they didn't do it then, but I think that's the best direction here is I mean, Andrew, like this Ronda Rousey's not a baby face. Like
Yeah.
let's all be honest. Like at this point, she's not. Maybe when she first came back, great, but like her initial run, sure she could pull it off, but now I just don't think so. And I think this is where like we're either going to get Liv Morgan versus heel Ronda, and I think at that point, if Ronda snaps on her, I hate to say it, Ronda's going to beat her at SummerSlam. And then we all know what's going to happen. Like Reigns versus Lesnar, 28th time in a lifetime. It's going to be Ronda versus Charlotte, 26th time
Mm.
in a lifetime. Like this is just, I think this is where this is all headed. Charlotte's got to come back at some point, right? Bailey's still there. I think it's at least intriguing, but I hope it's just not as easy as going back to Ronda and Charlotte again because I just don't know if that's the best thing moving forward. Although again, we could have said that about Reigns and Lesnar, but when it comes down to it, you're always going to go back to what you know, and I think that may be what they go back to. So
You want to know what's crazy is that going back to your point about Liv Morgan, I had watched the interview that she did with Ariel Helwani, her post title win interview, and he was like after she won the Money in the Bank, he was looking at his producers and he was just like, Liv Morgan's right there, like why are we not interviewing her? Like she was like literally
yeah,
on this like near the set. He was like, you would think that we would be interviewing her, right? She just won the Money in the Bank, and then like he realized like he must like I guess like it must have hit him like maybe like a minute or so after he was like, oh, okay. Like she probably gonna be like doing something. So that was like a funny little thing right there. But
yeah.
like what you mentioned about Liv and Ronda. Now see, I think like it is even funny because Ronda, she wanted to come back this past January as a heel, but they wanted her to come as a baby face, which I think it would actually like her reasoning for wanting to be a heel actually made sense. And the fact that she thought that the fans sort of switched up on her at the end and they started booing her, and she felt like, why would I come back and act like, oh yeah, I'm happy to see you guys too. Like y'all just booed me last time I was here, so I'm not. But like, I think that her reasoning for wanting to be a heel actually made sense. But of course, she don't. I know she ain't got no say in that. But
Yeah.
yeah, for Liv and Ronda, see the thing is, Bill. Like I think you're right that if Ronda is turning heel, I don't know about Liv title reign, man. I don't know how long it's gonna last because
Well, that's the thing is like if she turns heel, I don't. They're not going to immediately beat her, and that's the problem, right? Is because if you want like a live long title reign, like I think in any scenario here, maybe I'm not being pessimistic. Like I'm trying to look at this realistically.
yeah, that's
I
it's
just
because
it's
it's how they do stuff.
yeah, and I mean, there's again, think about that. It's either to me, there's like three options here. It's Ronda goes heel, and I don't think they're not gonna have her lose immediately, or Charlotte comes back, and well, I mean, let's just be honest, probably not gonna have
Yeah,
her like get beat in a 4 match series against Liv, which again, we know there's gonna be multiple rematches. That's just how it works. But then there's also Bailey, and you can't bring her back just to lose. So like there's and look, I'm not saying like and we know what's gonna happen, Andrew. And I'm not saying this again to knock on anyone, but when Liv Morgan loses this title, no matter when it is, like it's gonna make some people very unhappy. But
yeah,
I think just her getting to this moment is maybe something we should just embrace a little bit more and say, I'm great. It finally happened. Good for her. I think she absolutely
yeah.
deserved it. But the road forward to me is like a lot more complicated. So
Hey, Blake, like, wouldn't you think that it would make more sense to actually like do something more solid? Like, I mean, of course, we just speculating right now. Like, Liv could go on and have a lengthy run. She might go on and hold the belt to December for all we know. But like, we just speaking from what we've seen in the past. Like, you would think it would make more sense to actually want to further establish Liv Morgan, considering the fact you don't have a Sasha Banks right now, you don't have a Naomi right now. Like, you would think that you would want to build up sort of that next big baby face that you can rely on, and by you throwing her to the wolves like that, I'm talking about in terms of if they are planning on her losing at a SummerSlam or at at the pay per view after SummerSlam, or the Clash of the Castle show, or one of those.
yeah,
Like, if they are planning on Liv having a short title run, you're not doing any favors for yourself in that department in terms of having somebody that can. I'm not gonna say rival. I'm not gonna say rival that star power that Naomi and Sasha Banks have, but I'm talking about somebody that can be that sort of next baby face that you can count on and put in a variety of different slots.
yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of directions they could go in, and I think it's fine just to try to be optimistic. I think logistically, you look at it and you realize that they have these three people that we know they are completely invested in when it comes to Rousey, Charlotte, and then Bailey once she returns. I mean, but again, I mean Bailey could come back on Raw for all we know.
Yeah.
But I just think those three are in a very interesting dynamic. And look, SummerSlam's I mean, it's a big show, right? Like it's a stadium show, and that's very important. And they're going to have Rousey on the card. I mean, look, they could probably have Charlotte on the card. It's pretty quick to reignite that, I guess. But I think there's a lot of different ways they could go with this. But I'm curious how they go about it, because and it goes back to the initial conversation we were having. Is you were talking about Big E and all this other stuff, and there's so many other examples we have of just like these babyface champions finally getting their opportunity, right? Like that's the big thing. Like it is like there are similarities between like Big E winning, Liv winning. Like these are two people that people have rallied behind for years now, and it's kind of one of those things where you hope at least it's treated the right way moving forward. But uh, listen, you know what I'm doing. I'm trying to be
Yeah.
optimistic. Andrew.
All
Like
right.
I'm not trying to buy into all the where they're just gonna sit here and she's gonna lose it next week and that's
Yeah.
it. But if she loses it at SummerSlam, would I be shocked? No.
No.
Um,
But
I just
but
think
see the thing is, I think that it, like, right out of the gate, don't mess around with, like, this Friday on SmackDown, I would have her defend the title. It don't even gotta be no big title. Like, have her
yeah.
defend against Shotzi, Aaliyah, or Raquel. Have her defend against Xia Li. Just have her defend the title, right out the gate. Like, don't even like save me the promo. Like, save the promo till after the match. Like, give me the post title win, big TV promo after the match, after she gets her title win. Like, further establish Liv right out the gate, like just immediately, and have her, like, even if you want to go the route of, like, in terms of what you're talking about with Ronda and Charlotte being in the picture, like, if you want to extend the title run, man, like, do Ronda versus Charlotte at SummerSlam in the number one contenders match. It don't have to be for the title. It don't have to involve. You can
Right.
just say the winner coming out of that match is next up for Liv. You don't even have to date it in terms of when that
And
match
they
is going
don't
to
need
happen.
the title. Let's be
They,
honest, right?
they
Like
don't. They
those
don't
two don't
need
need
it.
the title.
They
Yeah.
don't need it. They don't need it. But Charlotte is not, like, it's clear. I think it's clear as day that they're trying to get Charlotte to that 16. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to get it to that specific 17. They're trying to get it to that number. But like her or Charlotte and Ronda, like you said, they don't need the title. Again, this harkens back to the absence of Sasha Banks and Naomi. You need to start building the next crop. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
it's kind of funny, like, that, from what we know about the situation. Sasha and Naomi's whole point is to further build up the division, and it's kind of sad that it took them leaving in order for some shit like this to. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying Liv winning the title is a direct correlation to that, but I'm talking about, like, in the overall point that I'm making, that them leaving, like, it just further leads to the point that you need to build up that next crop of talent and establish people outside of putting them in, like, these just random ass tag teams and then swapping them in and out whenever you feel like it. Like, Liv is one of those people who I think a lot of people see a lot of stuff in. And I think that she has a lot of people behind her, and the fan base is gonna get behind her. But if the machine ain't behind her, it's not gonna matter at the end.
No, it's not. Well, speaking of machines being behind someone,
That's perfect transition. Look at
A
that.
great transition, right? Theory is your men's Money in the Bank briefcase winner. You like that segue there. Um, and the machine is fully behind him. It's very clear at this point, whether you want to admit it or not. I
Yeah.
think, and you probably had the same reaction I did. As soon as he was put into the match, you knew
Mhm.
he was winning. Like there's no other reason to put him in the match unless he's winning. And that's exactly what they did. He wins. He's not even advertised for the match going in. We're all doing these great scenarios about what happens if Rollins wins. There's an interesting dynamic there. What happens if Sami Zayn, which I thought was one of the more underrated choices, just because of all the fun you could have with
Yes.
him, kind of making the decisions on whether he wants to go after his friends in the bloodline. But they went none of those routes. Drew didn't. I saw people kind of talk about Drew winning it, maybe just saying, "Hey, then I'm going to cash in there." Drew's already said it; he doesn't need the briefcase to do that. But I'll be honest with you, I had several. I think Rollins and Zayn for me were the two best options of the group. Um, I don't know where I would have put this one, honestly, Andrew. I don't know. I just think it's one that I will say, like, if you want heat, which we know Vince McMahon loves heat, when he has guys losing their hometown and all
Mhm.
these other tropes that they've used over the years. But this is one that I get it from the story they're trying to tell. But I also think it's one, and I said this after the show, I think it's where you're in that situation now where I think it's very clear to everyone that he is the next John Cena, Roman Reigns in terms of like this is the guy we're going with, and you are going to like it whether you want to or not. And I think that's a very dangerous thing
Yeah.
because we saw, and I know everybody's saying, "Well, look how it turned out for Cena and Reigns." Here's the problem, Andrew. He's not Cena or Reigns, and I'm not saying he can't
Exactly.
get there, but right now where they were at that point when they started that, he's not there. And I think that's the issue for me. And look, maybe this all turns out just fine. Maybe he loses this cash in. I know I've seen so many different scenarios thrown out there with what could happen that could involve Cena. Listen, I don't think he's cashing in on Lesnar or Reigns at SummerSlam. I just don't see that happening. But there's a lot of ways you could go with this. I will give them credit. I'm at least interested to see where it goes. But him winning certainly spawned a lot of interesting reaction.
I am not a fan of this ending in the slightest. But and to be honest with you, I think it. So it, just in my opinion, I think it sort of took away from like the good match that was presented, but that all the people in that match did.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I mean, this is just my preference. Like I would have preferred that Seth Rollins get the briefcase because I think that there is a bunch of different dynamics that you can go and a lot of depth that you can go in terms of like what he can do with the briefcase. Like, of course, you got Reigns versus Lesnar at SummerSlam. Rollins gets the briefcase. You all know what everybody's thinking immediately.
Yes.
The
That's what
big
I
second,
thought. Yeah.
the big second cash in. Is he going to do it? Like that's so it like literally writes itself. You can
Yeah.
actually do it there, and I don't think people would be like upset. First of all, I think they need to get one of those titles of Reigns ASAP, off Reigns immediately. Like
Yeah.
it like this whole thing has been cool, but not even like I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. Like I feel like it got real stale, like real quick, like this double title thing. Like you need
Oh,
to
yeah.
you need one of those other titles on somebody else, and then especially at the fact, especially that Reigns is not gonna be on TV every week. And not saying that the champion needs to be on TV every week, but I am saying the champion needs to be on TV every week.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know I'm contradicting myself right now, but like you need both of those titles constantly featured. And like, okay, if Reigns wants to hold the Universal title hostage, quote unquote, okay, you can do that. That's fine. But you need at least one of your world titles on the show. And if you're not going to do that, you need to elevate one of your mid card titles on the show. And we know they ain't doing
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
I would have preferred if Rollins got it. And then at that, you got the Cody story later down the line. Rollins run with the WWE title or the Universal title, and
Yeah.
then Cody comes back, and then they do the match at WrestleMania, and then Cody gets his big title win, and then there we go. You got it down the line, and then you got the people. You got Kevin Owens, like you could do title defenses against in this story. Then you got the abundance of different people. You go to AJ route because I'm pretty sure they'll put on a great match, and you got all these different people you can do all these different things with Seth Rollins with, and I just felt like Rollins was the best case scenario in terms of stuff that you can do afterwards after this Money in the Bank win. Like I feel like there was more depth to what Rollins can do. So I mean, of course, like I'm not surprised that they added Theory to the match. I'm really not, because I mean I think it's been clear as day since day one that that's been Vince McMahon's guy. Like he clearly sees something in Theory. And I would be very surprised if they don't do something with him and Cena at SummerSlam. I would be like very surprised, or even at the was at the Clash of the Castle show,
Yeah.
something along those lines. So yeah, I do think it took away from what these from what everybody did in the match, like just the ending, especially because he wasn't like, I mean not I mean because they advertise stuff and don't advertise. I mean they advertise stuff and it doesn't like turn out to be exactly what it is. Like that's not the
You
first time
don't
that's ever.
say.
Yeah, like the first time that's ever happened in pro wrestling, man. But yeah, I just think that there were more suitable options to go. Shit, I wouldn't even been mad if Kevin Owens could have got the briefcase or Sami Zayn. So there
Yeah.
you go. I mean, you know.
I think the only issue I always have with this is it's interesting to have the surprise. Obviously, it's much different if a John Cena or you know Cody comes out 1 month after a 9 month entry. But I think it like we always talk about how WWE weekly television just has no like there's no consequences, there's no ramifications for anything. It's just like it's just there just to fill time sometimes. It's not everything, but there's a lot of stuff we say that about. And it's like, okay, you go into this match, your entire build is around these guys that are in the match. And then it's like, well, it's all going to change in the span of like, a 15-second. Well, guess what? We're adding this guy. And I always hate that because it's like, okay, well, this entire whatever 3 weeks, month we've been building this up just meant absolutely nothing. And I think that's always something that can run people away. But I don't know. Here's the deal: like he has it now, and I think it's just what do they do with it? I've seen all the pitches just for how does this involve Cena? I know I've heard some people say, well, maybe it's something where somehow this leads to Cena getting that 17th title win
Oh no.
somehow, with this. Like, I don't know how they get there, but this is something where maybe Theory wins the title and Cena beats him somewhere along the line. I suppose you could do that, and it would make sense from that perspective. But man, Theory's 24. Again, he has his detractors. There's no doubt about it. He's getting heat, like he's getting heel heat, and we know there are some people that will fully lean into that and be just fine with it. But I just think there is such thing as going this route too early, and I wonder at this point if no matter which scenario, like I said, if this is going to have to involve Cena. I think we know that
Yeah.
like it somehow some way they're going to involve Cena and him winning this thing, and or Andrew, I say this, or maybe this was just all for Vince McMahon to flex his muscles again and say, you know what, this gives me a way to be on TV every week now. They're in the back telling me I shouldn't be out there. Well, guess what, my protege here just won the briefcase. I'm going to put
Jeez.
myself on TV 30 minutes a week. Like, would I be shocked by that? Absolutely not. I don't think that's going to happen. But there's just a lot here, and it is a lot to kind of to digest, I guess.
Yeah, it is a lot to sort of piece together, but I do think it's going to be involved John Cena in some way, shape, or form. Like like it, what you want to know was crazy is that like even though like they did have that interaction and when Cena came back for his 20 year anniversary celebration, and I
Yeah.
think that was just like, I mean, not that it's like any big revelation or anything. I think everybody kind of saw it, but that was like sort of the sort of the beginning point to what is eventually going to turn into a story at some point. Now I don't know how quickly of a turnaround that's going to be. Like maybe they do that, like not necessarily a match, but maybe they kick something off after SummerSlam and sort of have a longer build towards the stadium show that they got in Cardiff or something along those lines. Because I mean, you would think that they would want to have Cena a part of that in some way, shape, or form. Like that's a big show, so you would think that they would probably have him involved in that along with Reigns and others. But like going back to the titles, man. Like, dude, I could just think of so many people that you could slot in this position. Like so many different people, but like we had where we at, and I'm just trying to think of like different ways that you could go with the briefcase. Like I saw somebody throw it out there that maybe he'd be the one to cash in and actually lose, and like that'd be a
Yeah.
way for like like I guess for like Vince McMahon to like punk him out on TV or something like that. And like, but with all honestly, bro, like like this is a whole other topic. But like Vince McMahon appearing on TV while this dude is like the center of an investigation right now is
Yeah.
like ridiculous. Like the fact that and even seeing him doing this whole I think for Vince it's clearly a thing of him being like, hey, I'm not running from this situation. Like I'm right on TV, and this is me, and I'm not hiding from anybody. It's all okay. Like, dude, you're like literally getting investigated every which way. You got like 8 different law firms checking into your company.
Yeah.
It is not all good as you think. But nah, man. In terms of what they could do with the Money in the Bank, I definitely think at some point, just based off how they've presented him Theory since he came up to the main roster, and clearly that they've taken a liking to him, or Vince McMahon is taking a liking to him, and I think it's more than likely that at some point he'll probably end up becoming champion. But I think that it'll happen after he loses the briefcase. I think that he'll cash in, get the match. I think they'll probably play it as off some arrogant thing of him feeling like he can actually beat the champion like in a straight up match. Like I think that they'll do something like that, like him being the dumb kid or the inexperienced kid, and play it up like that, and then he'll eventually get it later down the line or something like that. But yeah, man, like I would honestly prefer the Seth Rollins or like a Sami Zayn. I think that'd have been a better option.
Yeah, I think there was a lot more interesting dynamic he could work with there, and I know it's just there's so many ways they could go with this. Maybe just maybe Drew McIntyre in Cardiff gets his win, and Theory just cashes in on me because Vince McMahon he just doesn't care. Like he's
Oh
just like, you
goodness.
know what? Can you think about? I mean, they
In the
would
U
they
in
would
the
tear the place
UK,
down.
oh man, in the UK, Drew his first big title win,
Surely
like
he
in front
wouldn't
of
do
in front
that,
of
right? Surely Vince wouldn't do that.
in front of people after what was that 2? Damn, that was 2 years
Uh,
ago when he got the title at Mania.
think of
Now
the Heat
now
though.
now, now you done planted that idea in my head. Now I'm thinking
Oh
like,
boy. I mean, think about.
is that too far out? Like, is it too far out?
Please, they cannot possibly do that. Please, I mean, if you want to get all the heat you could possibly get, that's the way to do it, in my opinion. But you can't. Come on, like, come
Think
on,
about
you
the
can't.
Heat.
You cannot do that, man. If you ever want to go back, and maybe that's the thing. Maybe Vince is like, you know what? We're gonna go back 30 years from now, and well, for him, I guess he thinks he'll probably still be going back at that point. But I mean, it's just like I don't know. Maybe he just doesn't care. But I I'm with you. I think Rollins or Zayn winning would have been a more interesting dynamic, at least to keep the TV interesting. Because I think right now with Theory, I don't really see a lot that's going to hook you week to week. Because I just don't think there's that. You know what I mean? And that's what we talk about, like the Money in the Bank. It's one of those things that like every week it just kind of hooks you. I don't believe that he's going to be the champion anytime soon.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm looking at that wrong. I just don't think it's going to happen. So I don't
No,
really have that investment that I would again if it was a Zayn who's standing there, with these guys every week, and you're just thinking, oh boy, like think about the comedy and the entertainment you could have with this. But or even a Rollins, given the history there, I don't have that connection right now with Theory. So I think that's one of the issues too, maybe.
I say you want to know what I think it is. Also, I think it's the WWE, like the way they present the Money in the Bank briefcases. Like heels tend to have the longer, like drawn out, just the constant
Yeah.
anticipation with the briefcase, and the baby faces. I think it just gets kind of dry real quick, and they always end
Yeah.
up cashing it in very quick. I can't remember the last time that a baby face held that briefcase for like a lengthy period of time. Like I can't remember. Like I was about to say Dolph Ziggler, but I genuinely cannot remember. Like when he won it, was he a babyface or a heel? I can't remember. And
That
I
was
think that
that time where he had been presented as a heel, but
yeah,
everybody loved him. Like it was one of those where you knew he was going to get the major pop that he got once he did
yeah,
it, and that pretty much they had no choice at that point. So yeah,
yeah. So yeah, that's probably like the last person I can remember that like held it for like a lengthy period of time, I guess. Please correct me if I'm wrong, anybody that's listening. But yeah, like
I
you see
couldn't
with Liv,
say answer.
yeah, we see with Liv Morgan, she cashed in the night of.
Yeah,
I remember Bailey cashing in the night of a couple years back. Nikki Sage cashed it in. I think like what was that
was it the night after,
the
or
night
was
after
it?
SummerSlam?
Yeah,
I
I
think it
think it was
was
the night after. Yeah,
the night after SummerSlam. Big E cashed it
God,
in.
that was that long ago.
Yeah, I know,
Wow,
right? Big E
my
cashed it in
goodness.
several months later. Who won the Otis lost his like a couple months later to the Miz, and then Miz
Oh,
who hit.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Andrew. I forgot Otis had it. Like that was
Yeah,
that.
Otis,
I just
Otis had it.
wow,
Um,
that's right. Mm,
yeah, so like I think it's a thing where they it's just traditionally just in on WWE TV. I think it's also a discredit to them in terms of like they don't know how to keep that thing relevant when it's on somebody who is well liked by the crowd, because I think that they view that briefcase as a heel thing. Like, why
Yeah.
would the babyface have that thing? And it can actually work either way. But I think just within the confines of how they like to present the briefcase, I think that they view it as just a heel thing, and it just suits better on a heel to have it for a lengthy period of time. But you can actually do some kind of cool stuff with a babyface with it, like. But
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there, because we have what we had with, we got Liv Morgan as champion, but we got Theory on the other side of that. So yeah, WWE, man, WWE.
We'll see. Listen, maybe they do something that we're not thinking of, and it's turns out to be great for all parties involved. But I will reserve judgment until then. But I think just the initial reaction to him winning was very interesting. But all right, something else I want to talk about. We talked about the match of the night, which I agree was the Usos versus the Street Profits, and everyone's talking about the Street Profits, Andrew.
Don't do
And the
it. Don't
reason
do it,
why
Blake. Don't do it,
is
Blake.
reason why is a lot of people want them to break up. I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't think there's a lot of people that necessarily want them to break up. I think it's more people, and this is where I'm at.
It's
I
Montez
get what
Ford, man.
and that's the thing. It's like I get you have to break them up if you're going to go that route, but I I don't even know if you necessarily have to do this in a sense that look, can he here's the thing. Like Montez Ford, I think has everything. Like I think he is a huge star in the making. They brought it up on commentary. I think maybe they've acknowledged it on weekly TV again. There's just things I don't remember. But like he's clearly bulked up. Like you can tell, like
Hmm.
he is setting up for this run. And I think once he gets there, I think it's going to be worth the wait. Like to me, he has everything. And I think that was one of the things that made that match so good was just his mannerisms, the way he plays off of, um, you know, his opponents and those kind of things. Like he is just so good, I think, at what he does. And now that's where we get to is which way do you go to get here? Because let's be honest, it's coming at some point. They're going to do it.
Yeah,
And I think at the latest, Andrew, in my opinion, at the latest, it's going to be the draft. Like, because I think at that point, look, we were talking about this last year, right? Like, we thought they were going to split them up last year. And now I don't think you're going any further than the draft. Now, maybe it happens before then. Maybe it somehow ties into what happened, in this match. I don't know. There's a lot of things you could do with it. But um, I think he is just look, maybe we're talking about Montez Ford next year, or I don't even think it's the year after. I think next year, maybe. Like we're talking him as the Money in the Bank type guy. Like I don't know how quickly they push him to the top, but I just look at him and I'm like he has everything, and
yeah.
just given what they want in terms of entertainment, right? Like they always push like it's entertainment. I mean, he is as entertaining as he gets, and I think in the ring he's great. So now to me, like the Montez Ford singles watch is officially on, and I think it's just a matter of when they decide to do it. So
I my goodness, I can't believe I'm doing this. I hate to disagree with you, man, because I genuinely like Ford and Dawkins together. And you want to know what? I'm gonna start off by like throwing a little bit of praise to Dawkins' way, because I feel like it's especially since these like conversations have started to come up more frequently now, you have seen him sort of turn it up in the ring. And this isn't like I'm not talking about like a past few weeks, like I'm talking about just over the past 4 to 5 months. Like Dawkins is like really like shown that he can go like I mean of course Dawkins could go in the ring. We all knew that, but I'm talking about like he's shown like a little bit extra, like he's showing like the high flying game, showing how agile he is, showing pulling out some different moves like that. Like when he like double hooks the arms and does like this like swing around like reverse neck breaker, like that thing looks cool as hell. And it like I was saying, it's been real cool to see him doing some like over the top rope stuff, like straight up diving over the top rope. That stuff is real cool to see him do that. And I think Dawkins is starting to show that he can be versatile as well, and he can step out of that box and be a single talent also. And I think that see the thing with the thing with WWE is, and the thing why I am sort of worried for Dawkins is if they do go the singles route is because I think that they view Montez a certain way, and then they view Dawkins a certain way. And I
yeah,
feel like with Montez, they have already sort of given him sort of those test trial runs. going back to that match he had with Roman Reigns, when that happened, I was like, oh shit, like here it comes. Like because I genuinely feel like that was like the test run for Montez. Like just I feel like they put him in that moment just to see like what was gonna go down, and he delivered. And I was like, here you go. Cause like you can see it, and I don't think it's gonna be the thing. I hope is that it doesn't turn into a thing where they need to feud and they feel like Montez needs to beat Dawkins. That does not need to happen. I feel like they can do something exactly what you said. Give them one. Matter of fact, if they're going to do this is how I would prefer them to break up the Street Profits. If it's going to, I would prefer if they stick together. And if you want to push Montez, and Dawkins could be right by his side, and you can if they think that Dawkins like won't be in like the world title picture, you can easily slide Dawkins in the Intercontinental title, U.S. title. He doesn't have to be like pushed off to the side or casted off to the side.
Yeah.
Just because you feel like Montez Ford is more what you're looking for in terms of a singles talent, right? I feel like if they are going to break them apart, I would prefer it be like you said on draft night, give them one big tag match, one big last tag match, let them go out there, do it all, and then you can sort of announce it on screen that one of them is getting drafted to the other brand, and you can finish it off like that. Like I don't need to see them turning on each other. I don't need to see no Otis Tucker. Like they need to have a singles match and one of them turns on the like. I don't need to see that because like, I feel like they both are very capable of reaching that next level. And I feel like if you just like I'll always say this, bro. Like you like I'm not like make it sound basic, but like this is pro wrestling. You can legitimately get behind anyone and make them into a big deal. Look at what they're doing with Theory. They're literally like essentially like forcing this dude into this main event spot. Like whether we like it or not, whether I like it or not, they are presenting him in that light. And I feel like you can do that exact same thing with either Ford or Dawkins. And of course they so it seems like they're more leaning towards Ford, but man, like I do see that like star like quality thing. Like he already has it. Both of them have it, but I definitely do see what everybody is talking about with Montez Ford, and I have seen it for a long time. Like I always make that joke that like when he made that baby laugh on Raw, that was it. That was it.
That's all you got to do, man. Just all you got to do.
that was the moment when they locked in on Montez Ford when he made that baby laugh, because that could have went so left. That baby could have broke out crying, could have scratched him. But he made some parents random child laugh live on TV. That was the moment, and he secured his fight in every WWE highlight package for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like I just hope that they don't need to go the traditional route. Like I feel like because it always it seems like whenever they do these things, man, it just never turns out for the other guy.
Yeah.
It just never turns out well. So I hope that when they do this, it's like a thought out plan. Like I could definitely see just hearing from Montez and Angelo how they speak about one another in interviews and how they communicate with one another when they do joint interviews. It seems like they will be one to look out for one another if that were to be the situation. So I hope that it doesn't turn into a thing where one of them has to turn on the other one, and then we got to go this whole traditional route where they hate each other and all this other stuff, and then it just gets weird at some point. Like, and then one gets casted off, and the other one rises to superstardom and stuff like that. So, yeah. I definitely see it with Montez. I would not be surprised at all. Like within the next year, if he's competing for the world title, not even in the next year. Like if they do it at, like you said, at the draft, probably November or December or early 2023, he's competing for the world title or within that title scene. Like it's always great for me to see like see like a black talent, man, like just really recognize that potential, and but not even them recognize that potential, for WWE to recognize the potential, because like I think it's real cool to see Montez sort of have this sort of spotlight put on him. Necessarily, like from from us, from the people that's watching it. I think it's gonna be cool to see it if WWE does it as well, because I definitely think he can hang with anybody that they got, man. So hopefully we don't need to go the route of them turning on each other, but that WWE gonna do what they gonna do. So I just hope that either way it turns out great for both of them, and they are like well, just since we speak about Monty, I just want to like finish it off. Like I hope that they don't like cast Dawkins off to the side. That's just what I hope.
Well, and like I think you can do very similar to what you did with the New Day, in my opinion. Like you just
Yeah.
you separate them because they're not on the same show. Which at this point, let's be honest, the draft is a sham. It doesn't matter. Like I mean, how many? That's the thing. Next time we come on, we're gonna do 45 minutes of you and I just doing trivia on who's on what brand because there's no chance anyone's gonna get half those right. But like you split them off if they're going different. They both have different directions. Okay, let's say one's in a different spot, another's in a different spot. And then you just bring them together when you need to. Like I don't think it's anything where you have to turn this into some big, huge story about
Yeah.
now they hate each other for no reason. Because why would they? Like there's no reason for that. So I think it can be very simple. And again, I know they want to do it, if there's a way to get heat, but I just don't. I just don't think it's necessary. Like I think you split them off. Again, if you go the route in the draft, you split them off, put them on different shows, have something in mind for both of them. For at least a week because we know beyond that, it may not be very far, but at least give them something to do. And I think that there's a clear, and I'm saying this, and I'm not just saying this because clearly, they are connected. But like to me, like Montez Ford is like the Bianca Belair, and like again, I'm not just saying that, but when you think about it, like if you're looking at WWE as a company, like to me, like she is the perfect like face of your
Oh
women's
yeah,
division,
100%.
right? And I think
Company.
he's someone, yeah, and I think he's someone that can be that whenever they want him to be. Like he is because he is like the personable, like the personality, everything is there. And I think that's what and like I said, that's why they're perfect for each other, I guess. Like when you think about just kind of how it all connected. If you're
Yeah.
like, okay, pick two people that would be great in a relationship together, boom, like Montez Ford, Bianca Belair, because there's just so many simple similarities. Like when you think about it, just from they have it, like they have that star presence. And I think that would be something again. Look, there's another story you can tell, but for the love of God, please don't put them in a storyline together on TV because
Please.
then I think you got issues. We've seen that before. But that's something though you can tell, right? At some point, it's like, all right, Bianca Belair did this huge moment for her, WrestleMania, all that. You can get there with Montez Ford, but there's just a lot of different things I think you can draw from that, and that's why I think that I do. I'm with you. Like, I'm not saying all this as a knock on Dawkins because it shouldn't be, but
Yeah.
I think some people go that way. It's like, oh, well, Ford's clearly better. I don't think that's the conversation we're having. I think it's you want to give him that opportunity, but you also want to understand that I think Dawkins, like you said earlier, I don't think he gets the respect he deserves. I think he's
Yeah, he
gotten a lot
doesn't.
better,
He
and
doesn't.
he's very good. And it's just you have to find a different, way to use him if you do go the route with using Ford as a singles person.
I 100% agree. I do think that Dawkins definitely does not get that credit that he deserves. Like I said, man, he has stepped up tremendously in ring wise. Like he has done like a really great job in terms of like being able to stand out doing these tag matches like that he does with Montez. Because I feel like the thing coming out of their tag matches, man, most of the time, and they do have a really great body of work in terms of like their tag team history.
Yeah.
But I think like most of the thing that comes out, like most of the time in their tag matches, like Montez Ford, like damn near hitting his head on the roof doing these frog splashes, man, like that.
Yeah.
But like his hops are legitimately insane. But yeah, like I like you said, like just to repeat it again, I hope that it doesn't have to be this thing of where like they turn on each other. Like I really don't want that to be the case, but I can see that being the case just because like I think it also depends on how they want to present Montez as a singles talent. Like
Yeah.
honestly, I think that he is that good that he can do either heel or baby, like, and it will work.
Yeah.
But just seeing him, like even, bro, like you was talking about him and Bianca, like talking about people that could be faces of the company. Like I think Bianca's already there, but I'm talking about like as
Yeah.
far as Montez goes, like you talking about people like, hey, I need you to go do this breakfast show or on ABC or
Mhm.
CBS, and I need you to go on this big radio show. I need you to go represent the company at a whatever meeting, and well, do one of these different meetings with all these different suits. Like who people you look at that on the roster, you need to send to do that. Bianca Belair, like you know what I'm saying? Like it's that's how great she is, man. And she's very personable outside the ring as well on screen. And so the same thing with Montez Ford. So yeah, man, I definitely see it. I see the vision, Blake. I see the vision. I don't want the vision to come true, man, but I definitely see the vision.
Listen, you just said it. I'm not going to go as far as some people who are, comparing Montez Ford to The Rock. I don't think you want to put that comparison on him. But when you're talking about personality and the stuff you just mentioned of being a person that the company can send out to do all this stuff, and we know how much that means in kind of this era.
Yeah.
I think he's got what you need. So we'll see what happens with that. And yeah, I think that they've got a big star in the making in Montez Ford. But Andrew, I told you I wasn't going to keep you longer than 45 minutes. It is the 4th of July here, and we are talking the fallout from Money in the Bank. And I know you've got a lot going on over with everything you got going on over at Post Wrestling and your Andrew Thompson interviews channel. I recently had Leo Rush on there. That was a great conversation, kind of getting his insight on where he's at right now and his injury situation and all that. But plug anything you want, my friends, and let everybody know what you got going on.
Yeah, so I appreciate you having me on, Blake. Always great to talk to you, man. And I'm looking forward to our July 4th, 2023 conversation coming up.
Montez
Up,
Ford,
man.
Money in the Bank winner next year. That's our next conversation. So.
But I say, but yeah, man, they can follow me on Twitter at @AD_Thompson__, and the same thing on Instagram. And yeah, I do have an interview on my Andrew Thompson Interviews YouTube channel with Leo Rush, and I also have one with Chris Brooks that made Botchamania for good reasons. For good reasons, that it had me scared when I first saw when I first got that notification. Was very worried. That's something we left in my interview, but it was a story that Chris Brooks told, so that was wipe the sweat off my forehead on that one. So yeah, I was all good with that. But yeah, you can check out my written work at Post Wrestling as well. A lot of people do a lot of great work over there. And yeah, big shout out to the 411 WrestleMania family. They always, y'all always show me love. I always try to do the same. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, always enjoy the conversation. And yes, if you're looking at the screen right now, follow Andrew on Twitter. That's actually two. That's actually 2 underscores. Just for some reason, put them like as tiny ones, so like that looks like 1, but it's actually 2. So be sure to add that extra one on there, and you'll find him. Just search for Andrew on Twitter and give him a follow, and follow all the great stuff he has going on over there, and all the great stuff over at Post Wrestling as well. Like Andrew said, they just do a great job over there. John Way and the entire group. So be sure to check everything out over there. And thanks as always for watching and listening to 411 on Wrestling. And we'll be back soon to talk more wrestling here on the channel.